I think we've done this experiment before, and it's shown that it hasn't worked. So everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to give a small rant on something that's been in the media a lot lately, and that is the metaverse. For those of you who don't know, the metaverse is the concept that we can enter this augmented reality universe where we can interact with each other virtually instead of in person, using kind of goggles that would fit over our eyes and give us a kind of a high definition virtual world that we can interact with. Of course, this is being popularized by Facebook and their decision to focus a majority of their effort on developing this metaverse and providing it for us to use. And of course, with any new technology, the key concept is trying to find the specific use case that would provide substantial value, where we would change the way we're doing something currently to benefit disproportionately from the previous way we conduct our lives. And one such suggestion was from Microsoft's former founder and CEO, Bill Gates, who made the prediction that perhaps video conferencing and team communication is one example where we would move away from the current tools like Zoom into more of a metaverse type environment where we would sit in a three-dimensional virtual boardroom and we could see people with the aid of three-dimensional depth. And the idea is that when someone talks, they'd have some the sound would come from a specific direction, and that would be a much more immersive way to communicate, rather than the kind of square tiles that we currently see on applications like Zoom and Google Hangouts. Now, that's an interesting hypothesis, but I respectfully don't think that's a good application, and I'll try to explain why. I think we've done this experiment before, and it's shown that it hasn't worked. And to really understand why, we have to really think about what is the primary purpose of why we have these virtual meetings, or meetings in general. And to me, the crux of why we meet in a professional and research setting is to transfer information, is to take knowledge from one person and share it amongst people that we are part of our team, our community, and disseminate information in a rapid manner. So one has to wonder, is the current way we're doing that inferior to a virtual reality world? And is it inferior enough that people are willing to invest their limited resources to buy these appropriate tools required to create a virtual metaverse in the kind of teams-based communication environment? And I say no, and I'll provide some counter examples where we've seen this fail before, and why I think perhaps that's not the area that the metaverse will have it's kind of home run application. Firstly, we know firsthand, we've heard a lot of people when there's a book and a movie of the same title, there's oftentimes when you hear the feedback is that the book is much better than the movie, and this is kind of peculiar. Why would a piece of paper, a two-dimensional piece of paper with words, be more immersive than a three-dimensional film? And I think that's counterexample one is that increasing dimensions of description of items from words to video is not necessarily always an improvement, as I think we've all heard someone say that. But even day-to-day life, you don't need those exceptions to understand why this is not a necessary tool for transferring information. We communicate with tens, 20, hundreds of people a day. I think if you sit down and analyze how we communicate with most people, I think we all agree that in today's society, most of communication is done via text message. Some information is done through phone calls, and at least for me, I don't know about you, but it takes a lot of activation energy for me to need to get on a video call with someone to communicate and transfer knowledge and information. I would say the only real time I use video communication is when my children want to talk to their grandparents, and so we've already done the experiment, right? In a society where we have access to video, to voice and text, the preferred mode of communication, I think, for many people is text, which from a technological point of view is perhaps the most inferior, basic form of communication. And I think that really highlights that anything that interferes with the speed of transfer of knowledge can be seen as a liability, not as an advantage. And this is why I think the metaverse will not have a significant or a driving research communication and teams communication will not be a driver for widespread adoption. So that's just my point of view. Where do I think there could be a valid application in medicine, education, and research? I think the ability to have trainees that may not have exposure to real-world scenarios enter a virtual world where they can see what doing a surgery or performing a surgery is like. I think that's a strong use case. So for medical education, early on in medical education, where a lot of trainees may not have practical experiences or in areas of the world, or for rare types of procedures where we may not be exposed to them in our real world often, I think the concept of an augmented virtual reality world where we can experience those and develop some kind of basic understanding of what those scenarios will look like when we encounter them in real life seems like a valid and useful application of an augmented reality universe. But in terms of communication, I really do think that at least early on, investing in capital and time to learn this technology, to transfer information, is probably not going to, again, be the driver of widespread adoption of the metaverse. So that's just my opinion. I'd love to hear what your thoughts on are for the metaverse and medicine and research and communication of teams in general, and where you think that the real home run applications of this new technology will exist, if any. So thanks for listening, and I look forward to your feedback and input. Thanks.